In the heart of a small rural town sits Willow Lake, shrouded in mist and surrounded by dense woods. The lake's surface reflects the moonlight, casting an eerie glow across the water. Nearby, an old abandoned cabin stands hidden among the trees, its windows boarded up and its walls covered in ivy. A group of adventurous teenagers, Tom, Sarah, Emma, and Alex, gather at the edge of Willow Lake, exchanging nervous glances. They've heard rumors of strange occurrences at the abandoned cabin and decide to spend the night there as a dare. With a mix of excitement and apprehension, they approach the cabin. The group reaches the cabin and cautiously pushes open the creaky door. Inside, the air is musty, and dust dances in the beams of their flashlights. Cobwebs adorn the corners, and the floorboards creak under their weight as they step further into the darkness. As they explore deeper into the cabin, they encounter decaying furniture and peeling wallpaper. Strange symbols are etched into the walls, and the temperature drops noticeably. A sense of unease settles over the group as they realize they are not alone in the cabin. Suddenly, a chilling wind sweeps through the cabin, extinguishing their flashlights. In the darkness, they hear whispers and footsteps, echoing from all directions. Panic sets in as a ghostly figure materializes before them, its eyes glowing with malevolent intent. With terror driving them, the teenagers flee from the cabin, their screams echoing through the woods. They stumble blindly through the darkness, their hearts pounding in their chests. Behind them, the ghostly figure watches with a sinister grin, knowing it has claimed yet another victim. Eventually, the teenagers emerge from the woods, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. They vow never to return to Willow Lake or the haunted cabin again, haunted by the memory of their terrifying encounter. But unknown to them, the ghostly figure still lurks in the shadows, waiting for its next victims. Emma arrived at Hollow Hill, an old mansion inherited from a distant relative she never knew. Surrounded by a dense forest, the mansion looked abandoned and sinister. The sky was overcast, and a sense of unease washed over her as she approached the entrance. Emma pushed open the heavy wooden door, which groaned loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and musty. Dust covered every surface, and cobwebs hung in the corners. An eerie silence filled the air, broken only by the distant sound of creaking floorboards. Emma stepped into the living room, where old furniture lay shrouded in white sheets. An old fireplace dominated one wall, with a large mirror above it. She saw a faint movement in the mirror, but when she turned around, the room was empty. The only sound was the faint ticking of an old clock. In the hallway, Emma found portraits of her ancestors. The eyes of the painted figures seemed to follow her. She felt a chill as she passed by a particularly stern-looking man. Suddenly, she heard a whisper, but when she turned around, no one was there. Emma discovered the mansion's library, filled with ancient books and old furniture. She found an old leather-bound journal on a desk. As she opened it, she read about dark rituals and mysterious deaths that plagued her family. The air grew colder, and she felt an unseen presence watching her. Emma noticed a hidden door behind a bookshelf. She hesitated, but pushed it open, revealing a narrow staircase leading down. The air was damp and cold. Holding her flashlight, she descended the stairs, the sound of her footsteps echoing in the silence. The basement was cold and damp, with strange symbols painted on the walls. An altar stood in the center, surrounded by melted candles and old, tattered books. As Emma approached the altar, she felt an overwhelming sense of dread. The symbols seemed to glow faintly, and she heard distant, echoing whispers. Emma's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. The whispers grew louder, and she felt a cold hand brush against her arm. Panic set in as she fumbled to turn the flashlight back on. When it flickered back on, she saw a ghostly figure standing by the altar, staring at her with hollow eyes. Desperate to escape, Emma turned and ran up the stairs. The house seemed to come alive, with doors slamming and shadows moving around her. She reached the front door, threw it open, and ran into the stormy night, her heart pounding. She didn't stop until she reached her car. Breathing heavily, Emma glanced back at the mansion as she reached her car. In an upstairs window, she saw the ghostly figure watching her. The whispers faded, but the memory of that night would haunt her forever. She drove away, vowing never to return.
As the sun sets, casting a crimson glow over the horizon, an imposing mansion stands silent and forsaken. Its once grand facade now weathered and covered in ivy, the mansion casts eerie shadows across the overgrown lawn. hinting at the secrets it holds within. In the neglected garden surrounding the mansion, tangled bushes and wilted flowers paint a haunting picture. Moonlight filters through the twisted branches of the trees, casting an ethereal glow upon patches of the eerie landscape, where shadows seem to dance in silent reverie. On the grand front porch of the mansion, once a beacon of opulence, now lies cracked and crumbling under the weight of time. Moonlight casts long shadows across the faded steps, adding to the sense of abandonment that permeates the air. Within the mansion's foyer, the dim light of dusty chandeliers flickers weakly, casting eerie shadows upon the tattered wallpaper. Moonlight filters through broken windows, illuminating cobweb-covered furniture that sits frozen in time, a silent witness to the mansion's descent into decay. In the cavernous ballroom of the mansion, the once glamorous dance floor now rots beneath neglect. Faded tapestries hang from the walls like forgotten memories, while moonlight streams through cracked skylights, casting ghostly patterns upon the abandoned space, as if the echoes of bygone celebrations still linger in the air. Within the mansion's library, the scent of dust hangs heavy in the air, mingling with the musty aroma of aging books. Tattered armchairs sit among shelves of ancient tomes, while moonlight filters through stained glass windows, casting colorful shadows upon the worn carpet that bears the weight of forgotten knowledge. In the dilapidated dining hall of the mansion, a long table lies buried beneath layers of cobwebs and neglect. Overturned chairs litter the floor, while moonlight streams through broken windows, casting an ethereal glow upon the decaying scene, where echoes of feasts long past still resonate in the silent air. Within the mansion's study, dusty bookshelves groan under the weight of forgotten knowledge, while forgotten artifacts gather dust in every corner. Moonlight filters weakly through dusty windows, casting long shadows upon the stacks of papers and abandoned furniture that clutter the room, where the ghosts of scholarly pursuits still linger in the darkness. In a desolate bedroom of the mansion, the once grand bed frame now sags under the weight of time, its faded curtains hanging limply from rusted rods. Moonlight filters weakly through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows upon the peeling walls, where whispers of dreams long forgotten still echo in the silent night. As dawn breaks over this mansion's overgrown backyard, the soft light of morning bathes the decaying structures in an ethereal glow. Mist rises from the damp earth, shrouding the forgotten corners of the estate in a veil of mystery, where the spirits of the past find solace in the dawn of a new day. Ravenswood Mansion loomed on the hill, surrounded by dense, dark woods. Its windows were dark, and the setting sun painted the sky with deep orange hues, casting eerie shadows across the land. Inside, the mansion's foyer was grand but covered in dust. A large, winding staircase led to the upper floors. An old chandelier hung from the ceiling, its crystals dull and dusty, hinting at the mansion's forgotten grandeur. The living room had a large fireplace with cold ashes, a dusty rug, and old furniture covered in white sheets. Faint light filtered through the broken windows, casting long shadows on the walls. The kitchen was in disrepair, with broken cabinets and rusted appliances. A large wooden table sat in the center, covered in cobwebs. The air was thick with the scent of decay and neglect. The dining room featured a long table with a dusty tablecloth and overturned chairs. The windows were boarded up, and the room was dimly lit by a single candle, casting flickering shadows on the walls. A grand staircase wound upward into darkness. The steps creaked underfoot, and the banister was thick with dust. A faint, eerie light glowed at the top of the stairs, beckoning yet foreboding. The master bedroom featured a large canopy bed covered in dust and cobwebs. The cracked windows allowed moonlight to filter through, illuminating the peeling wallpaper and adding to the room's eerie atmosphere. The basement was dark and damp, with stone walls and a dirt floor. Old rusty chains hung from the ceiling, and the air was thick with the smell of mold and decay. The sense of dread was palpable. A hidden room in the basement was filled with old books and strange artifacts. A large cracked mirror reflected a distorted image, and a single candle flickered on a dusty desk, casting unsettling shadows. As dawn broke, Ravenswood Mansion was bathed in soft, golden light. The shadows receded, but the mansion still looked eerie and abandoned. Birds began to sing, but the air was still heavy with the night's terrors.
In a remote village nestled deep within a dense forest, a young couple, Emma and Jack, arrived at an old cabin they had rented for a weekend getaway. As they approached the cabin, the trees seemed to close in around them, casting long shadows that danced in the fading light. Despite the eerie atmosphere, Emma and Jack were excited for their adventure. Inside the cabin, the air was musty, and the furniture showed signs of age and neglect. Despite its rustic charm, there was an unsettling aura that permeated the space. Emma tried to shake off the feeling of unease, but Jack couldn't help but notice the strange symbols etched into the walls. As night fell, Emma and Jack decided to take a walk through the surrounding woods. The forest seemed to come alive with strange whispers that echoed through the trees, sending shivers down their spines. Despite their growing unease, they pressed on, drawn deeper into the darkness by an unseen force. As they ventured deeper into the woods, Emma and Jack began to see strange shadows flitting among the trees. The shapes seemed to twist and contort, taking on sinister forms that sent chills down their spines. Jack suggested they turn back, but Emma's curiosity got the better of her, and they pressed on. As they walked, the trees seemed to close in around them, their branches reaching out like grasping fingers. Emma's heart raced as she felt a growing sense of dread settle over her. Jack tried to reassure her, but even he couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Suddenly they stumbled upon a clearing, and before them stood a group of ghostly figures. Their pale faces were twisted in agony, and their eyes seemed to bore into Emma and Jack's souls. Frozen with fear, they watched as the apparitions floated closer, their whispers growing louder with each passing moment. With a cry, Emma and Jack turned and ran, their hearts pounding in their chests as they fled through the forest. The ghostly figures pursued them with relentless determination, their whispers echoing in their ears. Desperate for escape, they pushed themselves to their limits, praying for a way out of the nightmare. Finally, they burst out of the woods and into the clearing where the cabin stood. Gasping for breath, they collapsed on the ground, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. As the first light of dawn broke through the trees, they knew they had escaped the forest's clutches, but the memory of their terrifying ordeal would haunt them forever.
In a small town shrouded in mist, there stood an ancient mansion, long abandoned and rumored to be haunted. Its dark silhouette cast a foreboding presence over the surrounding landscape, sending shivers down the spines of all who beheld it. Emily and Alex, two adventurous souls seeking thrills, stood before the rusted gates of the mansion. Despite warnings from locals, they were drawn to its mystery like moths to a flame. "Let's explore," Alex said, his voice tinged with excitement. As they crossed the threshold, the air grew heavy with the weight of centuries past. Cobwebs clung to the walls like spectral shrouds, and the faint echo of footsteps seemed to follow them into the darkness. Emily's heart raced as she whispered, "What have we gotten ourselves into?" Exploring deeper into the mansion's depths, Emily and Alex stumbled upon forgotten rooms filled with relics of a bygone era. Dust-covered portraits stared down at them with hollow eyes, and strange symbols adorned the walls. Each discovery sent a chill down their spines, but they pressed on, determined to uncover the truth. As they ventured further into the mansion, they encountered a presence unlike anything they had ever known. A spectral figure materialized before them, its ethereal form swathed in darkness. With a voice like ice, it whispered, "You dare to disturb my slumber?" With terror gripping their hearts, Emily and Alex fled through the twisting corridors of the mansion, pursued by unseen forces. Shadows seemed to reach out and grasp at them, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. "We have to get out of here," Emily cried, her voice echoing in the darkness. At last they reached the heart of the mansion, where the source of its malevolence awaited. A swirling vortex of darkness engulfed them, threatening to consume their very souls. With trembling hands, Emily and Alex prepared to face the horrors that lurked within. In a final act of bravery, Emily and Alex confronted the darkness head-on. With artifacts in hand, they battled against the malevolent force that sought to claim them. With a burst of light, the curse that had plagued the mansion for centuries was finally broken. Emerging from the mansion's depths, Emily and Alex breathed a sigh of relief as sunlight broke through the clouds above. Though their adventure had been fraught with danger, they emerged stronger, their bond forged in the crucible of the haunted mansion. As they walked away from the mansion, Emily and Alex knew that they had faced their fears and triumphed over the darkness that had threatened to consume them. Though the mansion would forever remain a place of mystery and terror, they would always carry with them the lessons they had learned on that fateful night. On a cold, misty evening, four friends, Alice, Mark, Sarah, and James, stand before Blackwood House, an old mansion with a dark history. Mark, the brave one, dares everyone to spend the night inside. Despite their fear, they accept the challenge, eager to prove their courage. The iron gate creaks as they push it open and step onto the overgrown path. The front door groans loudly as they push it open, revealing a dark and dusty foyer. Cobwebs hang from the ceiling and the air smells of mold. They switch on their flashlights, revealing old furniture covered in white sheets. As they step inside, the door slams shut behind them, making them jump. They move into the living room, where a grand piano sits covered in dust. The wallpaper is peeling, and antique furniture is draped with sheets. Alice notices a photo on the mantelpiece, a family portrait with the eyes scratched out. She feels a chill and steps back, bumping into Sarah. A soft whisper echoes through the room, sending shivers down their spines. "Did you hear that?" James asks, his voice trembling. They listen intently, but the whispering stops. Mark tries to laugh it off, but the fear in his eyes betrays him. They decide to explore further. In the kitchen, they find rusted appliances and broken dishes scattered on the floor. The air is colder here. Sarah opens a cupboard, and a pair of glowing red eyes stare back at her. She screams, and the eyes disappear. The cupboard door slams shut on its own, and they all back away, terrified. They find a door leading to the basement. James suggests going down, but Alice hesitates. The others convince her, and they slowly descend the creaky wooden stairs. The basement is pitch dark and damp. Their flashlights reveal old, dusty furniture and strange symbols on the walls. In the basement, they find an old table with a Ouija board. Suddenly, the planchette moves on its own, spelling out, "Get out." A low growl echoes through the room, and they see a shadowy figure with glowing red eyes. Panicked, they rush back up the stairs, tripping over each other in their haste. Desperate to leave, they race towards the front door. The house seems to come alive, with doors slamming and ghostly wails echoing through the halls. They struggle to open the front door, finally breaking it open and escaping into the night. The house falls silent behind them. Outside, they collapse onto the grass, gasping for breath. The mansion looms dark and silent behind them. They vow never to return, each one haunted by the night's events. The night is cold, but they feel a sense of relief and safety as they walk away. Back at their homes, they try to return to normal life. But each night, they are haunted by nightmares of the glowing red eyes and the whispers in the dark. The memory of that night stays with them, a constant reminder of the terror they faced. It was a cold, rainy evening when Emily received a letter from a law firm she had never heard of. Her great-uncle, a man she had never met, had passed away and left her his mansion, Blackwood Manor. Intrigued by the unexpected inheritance, Emily decided to visit the old house with her friends, Mark, Sophie, and Daniel. "I can't believe this place is mine," Emily said as they drove up the winding road to the mansion. Blackwood Manor loomed ahead, a Gothic structure with ivy-covered walls and dark, empty windows that seemed to watch their every move. "Looks like something out of a horror movie," Daniel joked, though his eyes reflected a hint of fear. Inside, the mansion was even more imposing. High ceilings, dusty furniture, and cobwebs in every corner gave it an eerie atmosphere. They split up to explore, each drawn to different parts of the house. "Look at this place," Sophie said, her voice echoing in the grand foyer. "It's like stepping back in time." Emily found herself in the library, where she discovered old family portraits in a large leather-bound book on a pedestal. As she opened it, a chill ran down her spine. The book contained detailed accounts of strange rituals and ghostly sightings. "This is weird," she murmured, feeling an inexplicable sense of dread. That night, the friends settled into their rooms, The wind howled outside, and the mansion creaked with every gust. Emily couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. As she tried to sleep, she heard whispers and footsteps in the hallway. "Who's there?" she called out, but received no answer. Suddenly, a figure appeared at the foot of her bed. Emily screamed, waking everyone up. When they rushed into her room, the figure was gone. "It was right there," Emily insisted, trembling. "It was just a bad dream," Mark said, trying to comfort her, but his voice lacked conviction. The next day, they decided to explore the basement, hoping to uncover the source of the strange occurrences. The basement was dark and musty, filled with old furniture and boxes. In the far corner, they found a hidden door. "This place just gets creepier," Daniel said as they pried the door open. Inside was a small room filled with bizarre artifacts, jars with strange contents, ancient symbols carved into the walls, and a large, dusty mirror. "What the hell is all this?" Sophie asked, her voice shaking. "It looks like some kind of ritual room," Emily said, her unease growing. Emily felt drawn to the mirror. As she wiped away the dust, she saw not just her reflection, but another face behind her. An old woman with hollow eyes and a sinister smile. "Emily, step away from the mirror," Mark said, pulling her back. The reflection changed, showing horrific scenes of past inhabitants suffering. The room grew colder and the sense of dread intensified. "We need to get out of here," Daniel said urgently. But the door slammed shut, trapping them inside. The symbols on the walls began to glow, and the ghostly face in the mirror started to chant. Trapped in the basement, the friends tried to find a way out. The ghostly presence grew stronger, manifesting in front of them. The old woman from the mirror appeared, her eyes filled with malice. "You shouldn't have come here," she hissed. "This house is cursed." Objects began to fly around the room, and the friends huddled together, trying to protect themselves. Emily remembered the book she found in the library. "We need to perform a ritual to banish her," she shouted over the chaos. Emily and the others rushed back to the library to retrieve the book. As they read through the incantations, the mansion seemed to come alive, with doors slamming and windows shattering. "Hurry, Emily," Sophie urged. Emily recited the ritual, and the ghostly figure screamed in rage. The house shook violently, and the friends struggled to keep their balance. "By the power of light, we banish you," Emily shouted. A blinding light filled the room, and the ghost's scream reached a deafening pitch before she vanished, leaving the house silent once more. The mansion was eerily quiet after the ghost was banished. The friends cautiously explored, ensuring the spirit was truly gone. The oppressive atmosphere had lifted, and the house seemed almost peaceful. "We did it," Daniel said, relieved. "But what now?" Sophie asked. "This place still feels wrong." "We should leave," Emily decided. "This house needs to be left alone." They packed their things and left Blackwood Manor, vowing to never return. As they drove away, Emily glanced back one last time. The mansion stood silently, its dark history buried once more. Back in their town, life slowly returned to normal. The friends tried to move on, but the memories of Blackwood Manor lingered. Emily kept the book hidden away, a reminder of the horrors they faced. One night, Emily heard a familiar whispering. She turned to see the old woman from the mirror standing at the foot of her bed. "Did you really think it was over?" the ghost whispered, her voice dripping with malice. Emily screamed, and the room went dark. The nightmare was far from over.
On a dark, stormy night, 4 friends, Tom, Sarah, Mike, and Emma, stood at the gates of Blackwood Manor. The old house was rumored to be haunted, but they were determined to spend the night there as a dare. They pushed open the heavy front door, which groaned loudly. Inside, the house was dark and filled with dust. Old furniture covered in white sheets and cobwebs in every corner made the place look abandoned and eerie. In the living room, they saw a grand piano in the corner and a large broken chandelier hanging from the ceiling. Suddenly, the piano played a single, eerie note, causing everyone to jump in fright. They decided to explore the upstairs. The wooden stairs creaked under their weight. At the top, they found a long hallway with several closed doors. A cold breeze made them shiver, and they heard faint whispering. They opened one door and found a room filled with old, dusty toys. The air was freezing, and a rocking chair in the corner started moving by itself. They heard a child's laughter echoing around them. Panicking, they ran downstairs and found a door leading to the basement. Despite their fear, they decided to investigate. The basement was even colder and darker. They found strange symbols on the walls and old, broken furniture. In the basement, they heard footsteps behind them. Turning around, they saw the ghostly figure of a woman in a tattered dress. She stared at them with hollow eyes and whispered, "Leave this place." Screaming, they ran up the stairs and out of the house. The door slammed shut behind them, and they could still hear the ghostly whispers. They vowed never to return to Blackwood Manor. Back at home, the friends sat together, still shaken by their experience. They knew they had encountered something truly terrifying, and agreed to never speak of it again.
In the dying light of evening stands the abandoned mill, a relic of a forgotten era. Its weathered wooden walls bear the scars of time, with broken windows and a sagging roof threatening to collapse. Vines crawl up the sides like tendrils of decay, while the surrounding trees cast long, eerie shadows that seem to reach out and beckon. In front of the mill lies a murky pond, its still waters reflecting the ghostly glow of the moon above. Reeds and cattails line the shore, rustling softly in the breeze. The air is thick with the sound of croaking frogs, their calls echoing through the darkness like a haunting melody. At the side of the mill, the giant wheel creaks and groans as it turns slowly in the moonlight. Moss and algae cling to its wooden surface, evidence of years spent submerged in the stagnant water below. The sound of rushing water fills the air, a constant reminder of the mill's former glory days. Inside the mill, the air is thick with dust and cobwebs, the silence broken only by the occasional creak of rusty machinery. Shadows dance in the dim light, casting strange shapes upon the walls and adding to the sense of unease that permeates the space. The floorboards creak underfoot as if protesting the intrusion of unwelcome visitors. Descending into the depths of the mill, the air grows colder and the darkness deeper. Rusted pipes line the narrow corridors, their surfaces slick with condensation. Crumbling walls threaten to collapse at any moment, while the sound of dripping water echoes through the darkness like a mournful lament. In the dusty confines of the mill's attic, old crates and forgotten tools litter the floor, their surfaces coated in a thick layer of dust. Cobwebs hang from the rafters like ghostly curtains, their delicate threads shimmering in the faint glow of moonlight that filters through a cracked window. The air is heavy with the weight of forgotten memories, a testament to the mill's long-abandoned past. In the dead of night, the mill exterior takes on a sinister appearance, its weathered walls looming like silent sentinels against the backdrop of the moonlit sky. Eerie shadows dance across its surface, twisting and contorting in the shifting light. The surrounding forest seems to close in, suffocating the structure with its oppressive darkness, as if eager to swallow it whole. Behind the mill lies a forgotten graveyard, its tombstones crumbling and overgrown with weeds. Wisps of mist cling to the ground, swirling around the dilapidated graves like restless spirits seeking release. The air is heavy with the scent of decay, a grim reminder of the inevitability of death in the passage of time. A rickety bridge spans a chasm behind the mill, its wooden planks warped and rotted with age. The rushing waters below churn angrily, their frothy white caps illuminated by the pale light of the moon above. The sound of rushing water fills the night air, a constant reminder of the relentless passage of time and the inevitability of change. As dawn breaks, the first rays of sunlight pierce through the darkness, casting a warm glow upon the mill and the surrounding landscape. The forest awakens with the sounds of birdsong, filling the air with a symphony of life and renewal. Despite its dark past, a sense of peace settles over the mill, as if nature itself has forgiven its sins and granted it a second chance at redemption.
In a secluded village surrounded by dense forests, there was a legend of the Whispering Woods, where the trees whispered secrets and shadows danced in the moonlight. A group of friends, led by Sarah, ventured into the Whispering Woods, drawn by the allure of the mysterious tales. They entered with trepidation, their hearts pounding with excitement and fear. As they delved deeper into the woods, the air grew thick with an unnatural chill, and the trees seemed to whisper secrets in a language unknown. Sarah led the group onward, her determination masking her growing unease. They stumbled upon a small clearing bathed in an ethereal glow, where ghostly figures danced in the moonlight, their laughter echoing eerily through the woods. Sarah hesitated, sensing danger lurking in the shadows. As they tried to leave, the forest seemed to shift around them, trapping them in a nightmarish maze of twisting paths and tangled roots. Panic set in as they realized they were lost in the whispering woods. In the heart of the forest, they encountered an ancient guardian, a towering figure cloaked in darkness, its eyes gleaming with malevolence. Sarah knew they had trespassed into a realm beyond their understanding. With courage born of desperation, Sarah and her friends made a final dash for freedom, racing through the twisting paths as the guardian's laughter echoed behind them. At last, they emerged from the whispering woods, shaken but alive.
Ravenswood Manor was infamous in the small town of Crestwood. Emily, a curious historian, decided to explore the mansion for her research on haunted houses. She arrived just as the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the old, decrepit building. The iron gates creaked as she pushed them open, feeling a chill run down her spine. Emily pushed open the heavy wooden door, which groaned loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and musty. Dust covered the floor, and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. She turned on her flashlight, revealing a grand but neglected foyer. Her footsteps echoed ominously as she walked down the main hallway, her breath visible in the cold air. As Emily explored, she noticed the shadows on the walls seemed to move independently of the light. She heard faint whispers like a distant conversation. Her heart raced as she spun around, but the hall was empty. Determined to continue, she pressed on, feeling the unseen eyes watching her every move. A dimly lit dining room with a large old portrait of a stern-looking woman hanging on the wall. The eyes in the painting appear to follow Emily as she moves. Emily stands close to the painting, looking at it with a mix of curiosity and fear. The room feels cold, with visible breath in the air, adding to the chilling atmosphere. A dark, dusty basement with strange symbols painted on the walls and old books scattered on a table. Emily stands in the center, holding a journal and reading it with a look of horror and fascination. The atmosphere is mysterious and filled with an air of dark secrets and ancient curses. As Emily read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Eliza Ravenswood appeared, her face twisted with rage. She pointed at Emily and screamed, "You should not have come here!" The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Emily knew she had to leave immediately. Emily bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind her. She raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on her. She burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but she could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on her. Back in her apartment, Emily reviewed the photos and notes she had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. She wrote her article, revealing the dark history of Ravenswood Manor. As she finished, she felt a cold draft and heard Eliza's voice whisper, "You cannot escape the curse." She knew the haunting was far from over.
Emily and her brother Jack inherit an old mansion from their estranged uncle. The house, nestled deep in the woods, is grand but eerily quiet. As they explore, Emily finds an old, ornate key in a dusty drawer. She keeps it, wondering what it might unlock. That night, Emily wakes up to the sound of whispers and faint footsteps. She dismisses it as her imagination. When she looks out the window, she sees a shadowy figure standing under a tree in the garden. She calls Jack, but the figure is gone when he arrives. The next day, Emily and Jack search for what the key might unlock. They find a hidden door behind a bookshelf in the study. The key fits perfectly, revealing a small room filled with old books, an antique mirror, and a diary. Emily reads the diary and learns it belonged to a woman named Margaret who lived in the mansion years ago. Margaret wrote about seeing a ghostly figure and hearing whispers. Her last entry hints at a hidden treasure in the house. That night, Emily sees the ghostly figure in the mirror. The figure, a woman in old-fashioned clothing, looks sad and mouths the words, "Help me." Terrified, Emily tells Jack, who becomes determined to help her. Emily and Jack search the house for clues about Margaret's hidden treasure. They find a series of letters behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The letters reveal that Margaret's child was taken from her, and she hid a valuable locket somewhere in the house to protect it. As they continue their search, the ghost becomes more active, appearing more frequently, and growing more desperate. Emily and Jack follow clues to the attic, where they find a locked chest. The key fits perfectly. Inside the chest, they find Margaret's locket, along with a letter explaining her tragic story. Margaret's spirit appears, looking peaceful. She thanks them silently before fading away, her spirit finally at rest. With Margaret's spirit at rest, the house feels lighter. The whispers and apparitions stop. Emily and Jack decide to stay and restore the mansion, feeling a connection to its history and to Margaret. Months later, Emily and Jack enjoy their peaceful home. They often think about Margaret and the extraordinary events that brought them closer together. The mansion is no longer haunted, but the memories of the past live on in a peaceful way. Julia and her husband, Mark, move into an old Victorian house in a small town. The house is beautiful, but has been vacant for years. As they unpack, Julia finds an old dusty mirror in the attic. She decides to clean it and hang it in their bedroom. That night, Julia wakes up to strange sounds, whispering and soft footsteps. She dismisses it as the house settling. However, when she looks into the mirror, she briefly sees a shadowy figure behind her before it vanishes. Disturbed by the experience, Julia visits the local library to research the house's history. She learns that a woman named Elizabeth lived there a century ago and mysteriously disappeared. Locals believe her spirit haunts the house. Julia becomes convinced that the mirror is connected to Elizabeth. That night, she sees Elizabeth's ghost in the mirror again. This time, the ghost seems to be trying to communicate, mouthing the words, "Help me." Julia tells Mark about her experiences. Skeptical but wanting to support her, Mark suggests they consult a paranormal expert. The expert tells them that Elizabeth's spirit is trapped and needs help to find peace. The expert instructs them to perform a ritual to release Elizabeth's spirit. They set up candles and the mirror in the living room. Julia reads a passage provided by the expert. The room grows cold, and Elizabeth's spirit appears. Elizabeth's spirit reveals that she was murdered by her jealous husband and her body hidden in the basement. Julia and Mark are horrified but determined to give Elizabeth justice. They find her remains in the basement, just as she described. They call the police, who properly lay Elizabeth's remains to rest. Afterward, the house feels lighter and the strange occurrences stop. Julia looks at the mirror one last time and sees Elizabeth smiling peacefully before fading away. Months later, Julia and Mark have settled into their now peaceful home. They keep the mirror as a reminder of Elizabeth and the mystery they solved together. Life returns to normal, but they never forget the ghostly presence that once haunted their home.
Willow House, an old decrepit mansion, stands alone in the middle of an overgrown yard. Its windows are shattered, and ivy climbs up the stone walls. As the sun sets, the house is bathed in a gloomy light, casting long shadows that hint at the mansion's dark past. Inside Willow House, the foyer is filled with dust and cobwebs. An old chandelier hangs from the ceiling, its crystals dulled by grime. A grand staircase leads up to darkness, and broken furniture lies scattered, remnants of a time long forgotten. The living room is a snapshot of a bygone era, with a dusty sofa and a cold, empty fireplace. Portraits of stern-looking ancestors line the walls, their eyes seeming to follow every movement. The air is thick with the scent of neglect and faded grandeur. In the dining room, a long table is draped with a dusty, tattered tablecloth. Cobwebs hang from a once elegant chandelier, and old rusty cutlery is scattered about. The broken windows let in the cold night air, amplifying the room's eerie stillness. The kitchen is in disarray with broken cabinets and old pots and pans scattered around. The walls are stained and the floor is covered in debris. An old rusted knife lies on the counter, a silent witness to the passage of time. The grand staircase is enveloped in darkness. The wooden steps creak with every movement, and the banister is thick with dust. Faint, eerie whispers echo through the air, sending shivers down the spine. In the bedroom, a canopy bed stands covered in dust and cobwebs. Moonlight filters through cracked windows, casting eerie shadows on the peeling wallpaper. An old wardrobe in the corner has its doors slightly ajar, adding to the room's unsettling atmosphere. The attic is cluttered with old, forgotten items covered in sheets and dust. A single dim light bulb hangs from the ceiling, casting long shadows that dance eerily. The air is thick and musty, filled with the scent of decay and lost memories. A hidden door in the attic reveals a secret room. Inside, the space is filled with old books and strange artifacts. A large, dust-covered mirror dominates one wall, reflecting an eerie, distorted image. The atmosphere is heavy with an unseen presence, making the air feel thick and oppressive. As dawn breaks, Willow House is bathed in the soft light of the morning sun. The shadows recede, revealing the full extent of the mansion's decay. Birds begin to chirp, their cheerful notes bringing a sense of normalcy back to the eerie setting. The horrors of the night fade, but the memories linger, a haunting reminder of the echoes that inhabit Willow House.
The camera pans over a serene lake surrounded by towering trees. The water reflects the golden hues of the setting sun, creating a picturesque scene. But beneath the tranquil surface lies a sinister secret waiting to be uncovered. A group of friends arrives at a lakeside cabin for a weekend getaway. They laugh and joke as they unpack their bags, eager to unwind and enjoy the beauty of nature. As night falls, one of the friends, Emma, shares a local legend about the lake, a tale of a vengeful spirit haunting its waters, seeking revenge on anyone who dares to disturb its slumber. The group dismisses the legend as mere superstition. Strange occurrences plague the cabin, whispers in the night, unexplained shadows flickering in the corners, and cold drafts chilling the air. The friends brush off their unease, attributing it to the eerie atmosphere of the lake. Exploring the cabin, one of the friends, Jack, finds an old journal hidden beneath the floorboards. Its pages reveal the tragic history of the lake, a tale of betrayal and murder that has haunted its shores for centuries. The vengeful spirit of the lake manifests, its ghostly form stalking the friends with malicious intent. Terror grips their hearts as they realize they are being hunted by a force beyond their understanding. In a desperate bid for survival, the friends confront the vengeful spirit at the water's edge. Armed with courage and determination, they must uncover the truth behind the spirit's rage to break the curse that binds them. Through bravery and sacrifice, the friends uncover the truth behind the spirit's curse and lay it to rest. As dawn breaks, they emerge from the darkness, forever changed by their harrowing ordeal.
In a tranquil forest clearing, the dying light of day casts long shadows over the lush greenery. At the center of the clearing looms a rustic cabin, its weathered facade hinting at secrets hidden within. Inside the cabin, the living room is shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the feeble glow of a single lamp. Faded wallpaper peels from the walls, and worn-out furniture sits silent and still. Dust dances in the air, stirred by an unseen presence that lingers in the shadows. Outside, the forest clearing is bathed in the ethereal glow of moonlight, casting a haunting pall over the landscape. Ominous clouds gather overhead, and the trees sway in the wind, their branches casting eerie shadows that seem to dance in the darkness. In the kitchen, neglect hangs heavy in the air, with peeling paint and cobwebs clinging to every surface. Moonlight filters through grimy windows, casting twisted shadows that seem to writhe and twist upon the dusty countertops and rusted appliances. Along a winding forest path, darkness reigns supreme, with gnarled trees looming overhead like silent sentinels. The path disappears into the blackness, its destination unknown and foreboding, daring any who venture forth to tread carefully. In the bedroom, the air is musty and thick with the scent of decay. A creaky bed sits silent and still, its threadbare curtains fluttering in the breeze. Moonlight filters through cracks in the walls, casting eerie patterns that dance upon the worn floorboards like specters in the night. As night falls, a raging storm descends upon the forest clearing, with lightning illuminating the sky in blinding flashes and thunder rumbling like the roar of a distant beast. The wind howls through the trees, whipping up leaves and debris in a frenzied dance of chaos and despair. Deep within the bowels of the cabin lies the basement, a dark and foreboding chamber filled with crumbling walls and rusty pipes. Moonlight filters weakly through a small window, casting a feeble glow over the mold-covered floor, illuminating the dank and musty air with its eerie light. As dawn breaks, the forest clearing is bathed in the soft light of a new day, with birds chirping and dew glistening on the leaves like scattered diamonds. The storm has passed, leaving behind a sense of calm and renewal that belies the horrors that lurk within the haunted cabin. In the cabin's living room, morning sunlight streams through the windows, banishing the shadows and illuminating the space with its warm embrace. Dust motes dance lazily in the air, and the oppressive atmosphere of the night has lifted, replaced by a sense of peace and serenity that signals the dawn of a new day. A car winds its way down a narrow road, flanked on both sides by dense forest. Inside, a group of friends chats excitedly, their anticipation palpable as they approach their destination, a secluded cabin deep in the heart of the Whispering Woods. As they round a bend in the road, the cabin comes into view, its weathered facade blending seamlessly with the surrounding trees. The friends step out of the car and approach the cabin, their footsteps muffled by the thick layer of pine needles covering the ground. The air is cool and crisp, carrying with it the scent of damp earth and decaying leaves. They unlock the door and step inside, their excitement mounting as they take in their surroundings. The cozy fireplace, the rustic furniture, the promise of a weekend filled with laughter and adventure. The next day, the friends set out on a hike through the Whispering Woods, eager to explore their surroundings. They follow a narrow trail that winds its way through the dense forest, the canopy overhead casting dappled shadows on the forest floor. As they walk, they hear the faint sound of whispering in the distance, but they dismiss it as nothing more than the wind rustling through the trees. As they hike deeper into the woods, the friends stumble upon an abandoned clearing, a forgotten relic of a bygone era. The grass is overgrown, and the remains of a crumbling stone structure lie scattered among the trees. A sense of unease washes over them as they enter the clearing, the whispering growing louder with each step they take. As they explore the clearing, the friends are overcome by a sense of foreboding, the whispering growing louder and more insistent with each passing moment. They exchange nervous glances, their hearts pounding in their chests as they try to locate the source of the strange noises. But the forest remains silent, its secrets hidden beneath a shroud of darkness. Suddenly, one of the friends disappears without a trace, leaving the others panicked and confused. They call out into the darkness, their voices echoing through the trees, but there's no response. Frantic, they search the clearing, their fear mounting with each passing moment. But the forest remains silent, as if swallowing their cries for help. As night falls, the friends begin to unravel, their minds tormented by the whispers that fill the air. They argue and accuse one another, their once strong bonds strained to the breaking point. But as they spiral further into madness, they realize they must confront the darkness that lurks within the Whispering Woods if they have any hope of escaping its grasp. Armed with determination, the remaining friends set out to confront the evil that haunts the Whispering Woods once and for all. They gather in the clearing, their hearts pounding in their chests as they prepare to face their greatest fears. With a final glance at one another, they steel themselves for the battle ahead. As dawn breaks, the remaining friends emerge from the Whispering Woods, battered and bruised but alive. They exchange weary smiles, knowing that they've faced their fears and emerged stronger for it. Though the scars of their ordeal will never fully heal, they take solace in the knowledge that they've conquered the darkness that once threatened to consume them.
A group of friends, Sam, Lily, Ben, and Emma, arrive at Willow Lake, a secluded campground nestled deep in the woods. The air is thick with anticipation as they unpack their gear and set up camp beside the tranquil waters. The sun sets in the distance, casting an orange glow over the towering trees that surround them. As night falls, the friends gather around a crackling campfire, their faces illuminated by the dancing flames. They share spooky stories of ghosts and ghouls, their laughter echoing through the silent forest. But as the tales grow darker, a sense of unease settles over the group, and they can't shake the feeling that they are being watched. As they settle into their tents for the night, strange noises echo through the woods, creaking branches, rustling leaves, and eerie whispers that seem to float on the breeze. The friends huddle together, their hearts pounding with fear as they try to rationalize the unexplained phenomena. But deep down, they know that something sinister lurks in the darkness. Unable to shake their fear, the friends decide to investigate the source of the strange noises. Armed with flashlights, they venture into the dark woods, their footsteps muffled by the thick carpet of pine needles beneath their feet. The air is heavy with anticipation as they follow the trail deeper into the forest, their hearts pounding with each step. Eventually, they stumble upon a clearing in the woods, where an ancient oak tree stands sentinel in the moonlight. Strange symbols are etched into its bark, and a sense of malevolence hangs heavy in the air. As they approach, they are overcome by a wave of dread, knowing that they have stumbled upon something beyond their understanding. Suddenly, ghostly figures materialize before them, translucent apparitions with hollow eyes and outstretched hands. The spirits drift through the clearing, their movements graceful yet unsettling. The friends watch in horror as the ghosts draw closer, their presence filling the night with a chilling aura. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends turn and flee from the haunted clearing, their hearts pounding with terror. They race through the darkened woods, their footsteps echoing off the trees as they struggle to escape the malevolent spirits that pursue them. Branches claw at their skin, and roots trip them up as they push themselves to their limits. Emma, a young writer in her late 20s, inherits an old mansion called Ravenwood Manor from her estranged uncle. She decides to visit the house, hoping it will be a quiet place to write her novel. As she arrives, she feels an unsettling chill in the air. The house, surrounded by dark woods, looks like it hasn't been touched in years. Vines creep up the stone walls, and the windows are dark and foreboding. On her first night, Emma struggles to sleep. The house creaks and groans as if it's alive. She hears footsteps in the hallway and the faint sound of whispers. When she investigates, she finds nothing but darkness and silence. She returns to bed, feeling uneasy. The next day, while exploring the house, Emma discovers a locked door in the basement. Curious, she searches the house and finds an old, rusty key hidden in a drawer. She uses the key to unlock the door and finds a small room filled with old furniture, cobwebs, and a large, ornate mirror covered with a cloth. Emma removes the cloth from the mirror and, to her shock, sees the reflection of a young girl standing behind her. When she turns around, no one is there. The mirror begins to show disturbing images of past events in the house, including a girl being trapped and crying for help. Emma feels a chill run down her spine. Determined to find out more, Emma searches the house and finds an old diary hidden behind a loose brick in the fireplace. The diary belonged to her uncle and details a tragic story of a girl named Lily who lived in the house and mysteriously disappeared. Emma realizes the ghost she saw as Lily, trapped in the mirror. Emma decides to perform a seance to communicate with Lily's spirit. She sets up candles and chants words from the diary. The room grows cold and Lily's ghost appears, revealing that she was trapped by a dark ritual performed by Emma's uncle. Lily begs Emma to free her. Following Lily's instructions, Emma gathers the items needed to break the ritual: a locket, a piece of Lily's clothing, and a special incantation. As she performs the ritual, the house shakes violently, and a dark, malevolent spirit tries to stop her. Emma persists, chanting the incantation louder and louder. The dark spirit attacks, but Emma continues the ritual, calling out to Lily for strength. A bright light fills the room, and the dark spirit screams before dissipating into nothingness. Lily's spirit smiles gratefully at Emma before ascending into the light, finally freed. With the haunting over, the house feels lighter and more welcoming. Emma finishes her novel, inspired by Lily's story. She decides to keep Ravenwood Manor and transform it into a place of peace and creativity. Sitting on the porch, she feels a deep connection to the house and its history, ready for a new beginning. Jonathan, a middle-aged man with a strained relationship with his family, receives a letter informing him of an inheritance from his late uncle. The inheritance includes a remote mansion in the countryside. Curious and financially strained, Jonathan decides to visit the mansion with his wife, Laura, and their teenage daughter, Megan. Laura looks worried. "Are you sure about this? We don't even know much about your uncle." Jonathan nods. "We need a fresh start, and maybe this place can offer that." Megan, always the adventurous one, says excitedly, "It'll be like an adventure." The family arrives at the mansion late in the afternoon. The mansion stands tall and imposing, surrounded by a dense forest. The air is thick with the scent of decay, and the atmosphere is eerily quiet. Megan shivers. This place feels off. Jonathan, trying to be positive, says, "It's just old. Let's see what's inside." Laura clutches Megan's hand. "Stay close, honey." Inside, the mansion is filled with dust and cobwebs. The furniture is covered with white sheets, and the air is musty. As they explore, Megan finds an old, ornate mirror in one of the rooms. The mirror's surface is strangely clean compared to the rest of the house. Look at this mirror, Megan calls out. Laura touches the frame. It's beautiful, but out of place here. Jonathan frowns. Why is it so clean? That night, the family tries to settle in. Jonathan and Laura fall asleep quickly, but Megan struggles. Around midnight, she hears faint whispers and feels a cold breeze. The mirror in her room begins to fog up, revealing words written from the inside. Help us, it reads. Terrified, Megan runs to her parents' room. Mom, Dad, there's something in the mirror. Jonathan, groggy, tries to comfort her. It's just your imagination, Megan. Go back to sleep. The next day, the family visits the local library to learn more about the mansion. They discover that it was owned by Jonathan's uncle, who was a reclusive and eccentric man interested in the occult. Laura reads from an old newspaper. Local recluse found dead under mysterious circumstances. Mansion believed to be haunted. Jonathan sighs. This explains a lot. We need to be careful. Megan, still shaken, adds, what if the spirits are still here? Back at the mansion, Jonathan discovers a hidden door in the basement. Inside, they find an old study filled with books on the occult, strange artifacts, and a large locked chest. Laura examines a book. He was really into dark stuff. This can't be good. Jonathan tries to open the chest, but fails. We need to find the key. There might be answers inside. Megan points to a strange symbol on the wall. I've seen this symbol before, in my room. That night, the hauntings escalate. Objects move on their own, and ghostly apparitions appear. Megan is dragged out of bed by an unseen force, and Laura sees a shadowy figure standing at the end of the hallway watching them. We have to leave now, Laura screams, but the doors are locked and won't open. Jonathan grabs an old book from the study. This book has instructions to banish the spirits. We need to perform the ritual. Desperate, the family gathers in the basement to perform the ritual. They light candles and arrange the symbols in a circle. Jonathan reads the incantation aloud, while Laura and Megan hold hands, trembling. As the ritual progresses, the house shakes, and the spirits grow more agitated. A blinding light fills the room, and the spirits are drawn into the circle, screaming. Keep going, Jonathan! Laura yells over the noise. With a final shout, Jonathan completes the incantation and the spirits vanish. The house falls silent. The next morning, the mansion feels different. The oppressive atmosphere is gone, and sunlight streams through the windows. The family packs up their belongings, relieved that the ordeal is over. We should tell someone about this place, Laura says, looking back at the mansion. Jonathan nods. Let's make sure no one else has to go through this. They drive away, leaving the mansion behind. Back home, life seems to return to normal. But one night, Megan finds the old mirror in her room, even though they left it at the mansion. Her heart races as she sees words slowly appear on the surface. We are not done, it reads. Megan turns to see a shadowy figure standing in the corner, its eyes glowing with malevolence. She screams as the room plunges into darkness.
In the quiet countryside, shrouded in mist, stands the imposing Blackwood Manor, a mansion long abandoned and rumored to be haunted. A group of thrill-seekers, Alex, Lily, and James, arrive at the manor one moonlit night, drawn by its dark history. As they approach the manor, they are greeted by a heavy iron gate, its rusty bars twisted and warped with age. The gate creaks open ominously, as if welcoming them into its dark embrace. The group hesitates, but their curiosity pushes them forward. Inside the manor, the air is thick with dust and the scent of decay. The group explores room after room, their footsteps echoing off the empty walls. Shadows dance in the flickering candlelight, and strange whispers seem to follow them wherever they go. As they delve deeper into the manor, they uncover signs of its dark past. Forgotten diaries filled with tales of madness and despair, hidden passages leading to secret chambers, and portraits of long-dead residents whose eyes seem to follow their every move. As night falls, the manor comes alive with ghostly apparitions and sinister whispers. The group is plagued by visions of the past, echoes of tragedy and despair that seem to seep from the very walls themselves, threatening to consume them. In a desperate bid to escape the manor's grasp, The group races through its labyrinthine halls, their hearts pounding and their breath coming in ragged gasps. But the manor seems to have other plans, its corridors shifting and changing before their eyes, trapping them in a nightmarish maze. Cornered in the manor's dark heart, the group confronts the malevolent force that has plagued them since their arrival. With a final desperate act of defiance, they banish the entity back into the shadows from whence it came, freeing themselves from its grasp and escaping into the night.
Sophie arrived at Briarwood Manor, a sprawling estate she inherited from her great-uncle. The mansion stood alone on a hill, surrounded by gnarled trees and thick fog. As she approached, the gate creaked open on its own, setting her nerves on edge. She hesitated but walked through, determined to uncover the secrets of her inheritance. Sophie stepped inside the manor, greeted by a grand but dusty foyer. The air was heavy with the scent of decay. As she moved further in, the front door slammed shut behind her with a loud bang. Startled, she spun around, but no one was there. The only light came from her flickering flashlight. In the living room, old furniture was covered in white sheets. An antique clock ticked loudly, breaking the silence. Sophie noticed a photograph on the mantelpiece, showing her great-uncle with an unknown woman. Suddenly, she heard footsteps behind her. She turned quickly, but the room was empty. Sophie walked down a hallway lined with portraits of her ancestors. Their eyes seemed to follow her every move. She felt a chill as she passed by a particularly stern-looking man. As she continued, she heard a whisper, almost as if someone was calling her name. She froze, heart pounding. In the library, Sophie found shelves filled with dusty old books. One book in particular caught her eye, an old journal. As she read through it, she discovered it belonged to her great-uncle, detailing strange events and encounters with a dark presence. The room grew colder, and she felt like she was being watched. Behind a bookshelf, Sophie discovered a hidden door. She hesitated but felt compelled to open it. The door revealed a dark, narrow staircase leading down. Holding her flashlight, she descended, each step echoing in the silence. The air grew damp and cold. The basement was filled with old furniture and strange symbols painted on the walls. In the center stood an altar with black candles and an old book. As Sophie approached, the candles flickered to life, casting an eerie glow. She felt an overwhelming sense of dread as she heard distant whispers. Sophie's flashlight flickered and died, plunging her into darkness. The whispers grew louder, and she felt a cold hand on her shoulder. She spun around to see a ghostly figure of the unknown woman from the photograph, her eyes filled with sorrow. "Help me," the figure whispered. Terrified, Sophie ran up the stairs, the house seeming to come alive with shadows moving and doors slamming. She burst through the front door into the foggy night, her heart pounding. She didn't stop running until she reached her car. She looked back once more, vowing never to return. Breathing heavily, Sophie glanced back at the manor as she reached her car. In an upstairs window, she saw the ghostly figure of the unknown woman watching her. The whispers faded, but the memory of that night would haunt her forever. She drove away, never looking back.
Blackwood Manor had always been a place of dark legends in the town of Ravenwood. On a foggy evening, Jack, a determined historian, arrived to uncover the truth about the mysterious disappearances linked to the mansion. He parked his car at the entrance, feeling a mixture of excitement and fear. The fog rolled in thick waves, almost swallowing the mansion whole. Jack pushed open the heavy wooden door, which creaked loudly. Inside, the mansion was dark and cold. Dust covered every surface and cobwebs hung from the ceiling. He turned on his flashlight, revealing a grand but neglected foyer. His footsteps echoed ominously as he walked down the main hallway, the air thick with a sense of abandonment. As Jack explored, he felt a sudden chill. He turned and saw a shadowy figure at the end of the hallway. It vanished as quickly as it appeared, leaving him questioning his sanity. Determined, he continued to the library, where he hoped to find records about the mansion's dark past. In the library, Jack found rows of old, dusty books. As he searched through them, he heard whispers and the sound of pages turning on their own. He discovered an old diary belonging to the mansion's original owner, Thomas Blackwood. The entry spoke of dark rituals and a curse placed on the house. Jack's exploration led him to a room filled with mirrors. As he walked through, his reflection seemed to move on its own, eyes following him with an unsettling intensity. One mirror in particular drew his attention. In it, he saw the ghostly figure of a woman crying, her eyes pleading for help. He reached out, but the image disappeared. Jack discovered a hidden door behind a tattered curtain in the study. He descended the creaky stairs into a dark basement. The room was filled with strange symbols painted on the walls and old dusty books on a table. He found a journal detailing dark rituals and a curse placed on the house by its original owner, Thomas Blackwood. As Jack read the journal, the basement grew colder. A ghostly figure of Thomas Blackwood appeared, his face twisted with rage. He pointed at Jack and screamed, "You should not have come here." The walls shook, and the air filled with a chilling wind. Jack knew he had to leave immediately. Jack bolted up the stairs, the spirit's screams echoing behind him. He raced through the mansion, the walls seeming to close in on him. He burst through the front door and into the night, gasping for breath. The house stood silent and still, but he could feel the weight of its curse pressing down on him. Back in his apartment, Jack reviewed the photos and notes he had taken. The evidence of the haunting was undeniable. He wrote his article revealing the dark history of Blackwood Manor. As he finished, he felt a cold draft and heard Thomas's voice whisper, "You cannot escape the curse." He knew the haunting was far from over. In an old, dusty attic, Emily found a large, ornate mirror covered with a white cloth. Curious, she pulled off the cloth, revealing a beautifully carved frame and a mirror that looked untouched by time. Her friend Jack warned her not to touch it, but Emily couldn't resist. As Emily gazed into the mirror, her reflection seemed to flicker. For a moment, she saw a shadowy figure standing behind her. She turned around quickly, but no one was there. Jack saw nothing and told her it was just her imagination. That night, Emily had a terrible nightmare. She dreamt of being trapped in the mirror, unable to escape. Shadowy figures surrounded her, whispering her name. She woke up in a cold sweat, the image of the figures lingering in her mind. The next day, strange things started happening. Objects moved on their own, and Emily felt a constant cold presence. Jack suggested they move the mirror back to the attic, but Emily felt an odd attachment to it and refused. Emily's grandmother visited and immediately recognized the mirror. She warned Emily about the curse, explaining that the mirror trapped souls and that they must destroy it before it's too late. Emily was skeptical, but agreed to consider it. That evening, Emily started acting strange. Her eyes glazed over, and she spoke in a voice that wasn't her own. Jack realized the mirror was possessing her and tried to snap her out of it, but she attacked him, screaming that they mustn't destroy the mirror. Jack and Emily's grandmother decided to destroy the mirror. They grabbed a hammer and approached it cautiously. The mirror's surface rippled, and shadowy hands reached out, trying to stop them. With a desperate swing, Jack shattered the mirror. As the mirror shattered, a wail echoed through the room, and the shadowy figures dissolved into smoke. Emily collapsed, unconscious but unharmed. The room felt lighter, and the cold presence was gone. Emily woke up, confused but relieved. In the days that followed, Emily recovered and felt grateful to Jack and her grandmother. They disposed of the mirror's remains and made sure to never speak of it again. The house felt peaceful once more. Emily redecorated her room, replacing the mirror with a beautiful painting. Life returned to normal, and the haunting memories faded away. They knew they'd faced something dark, but their bond was stronger than ever. A group of friends, Alex, Maya, Ben, and Emma, arrive at the secluded Willow Lake for a weekend camping trip. The sun dips below the horizon as they set up their tents on the shore, the water reflecting the fading light. Excitement fills the air as they gather around a crackling campfire, swapping stories and laughter. As night falls, a thick fog rolls in from the lake, shrouding the campsite in an eerie haze. The friends exchange uneasy glances as the temperature drops, the crackling of the campfire the only sound breaking the silence. Shadows dance in the mist and strange shapes move just beyond the edge of their vision. As the night wears on, the friends begin to notice strange occurrences around the campsite. Personal belongings go missing, only to reappear in odd places moments later. The tent flaps flutter open and shut of their own accord, and eerie whispers float on the breeze. Tension mounts as they realize they are not alone in the darkness. Suddenly, a figure materializes out of the fog, a spectral apparition with hollow eyes and a gaping mouth. The friends recoil in horror as it reaches out towards them, its form shifting and wavering in the mist. Frozen with fear, they watch as it drifts closer, its unearthly wails echoing in the night. With adrenaline coursing through their veins, the friends scramble to pack up their belongings and flee from the campsite. They race through the fog-shrouded forest, the sound of their footsteps echoing in the darkness. Branches claw at their skin, and roots trip them up as they push themselves to their limits, desperate to escape the grasp of the malevolent spirit. Exhausted and out of breath, the friends finally emerge from the forest and into the safety of the open meadow. They collapse on the grass, their bodies trembling with exhaustion and fear. As they catch their breath, they exchange relieved glances, grateful to have survived the night. But as they look back at Willow Lake, they can't shake the feeling that they have awakened something ancient and malevolent that will continue to haunt the wilderness for years to come.